Hey, how's it going? So just like the title says, I'm just going to do this little video to explain what I did to swap a 4L80 transmission into an 86 Chevy Silverado K10. The trans that was in there before was a 700 R4 with a 208 transfer case. Long story short, lost the driveline, the rear driveline on a freeway, and the vibration, everything cracked the case on the 700. So rather than looking for another 700, I just went ahead and swapped into a 4L80. And I also had a 205 transfer case laying around, so I decided to use that as well. This small block Chevy has it's a carbureted engine, so we'll get up under the truck and then I'll point out all the little parts and little things that you'll need to do if you're doing the same thing that I'm doing, or maybe it'll help you out with another application. All right, so let's get up under the truck. All right, so the 4L80 bolts up to the small block Chevy just fine. I had to hone out the one of the torque converter bolts here just a little bit. I probably had to bar that hole out just a little bit. It probably took about 1 millimeter or so of material off just so I can get the bolt in there. And the flex plate is just a standard 168 tooth flex plate stock to the small block. I didn't have to put a spacer or anything in there. And it's going up to a GM81 torque converter. It's a lockup torque converter where I think it's like a 1600 to an 1800 stall stock GM starter. Fits fine, no shimming or anything. The old shift lever, none of that worked, so I had to get just this universal kit. It came from Shift Works, and it was like 50 bucks to the door, and it came straight. You just kind of bend it all up however you need it to fit to where the old one was. The instructions are pretty detailed, and that was pretty easy. I didn't do a floor shifter or nothing. I just kept the same column shifter. When this transmission got rebuilt, they didn't replace the plug that's inside. Well, it's also a seal. So if you have a transmission, I'd recommend getting another one of those harnesses. They were like 50 bucks. This particular brand was Rostra. Not this harness, but it's actually inside what this harness plugs into, and there's a whole pigtail wires in here that connect, and it was pretty easy. It was literally plug and play. All right, so I made it to a 205 transfer case. I went with the advanced adapters kit. This kit, which takes a 4L80 four-wheel drive and mates it to a figure 8 style 205, which would have been behind either a 350 trans or a SM 465. This one was behind a 465. So this part number here is for advanced adapters was 50-0411. So it came with the adapter, it came with the bearing and the input shaft that you will have to have this case bored out to fit. I took all this stuff down to the transmission shop and they did it. I didn't do any of that. They cut the shaft down, the output shaft of the trans down, and they made sure it was all going to fit together before I got it back. Speedo cable, that's stock. That fit this without any extension or anything. I just stretched it out a little bit and it fit fine. Since this was an 86, I had a W style cross member. They have the W style, which was in the 85s and 86s, I believe. This cross member is a flat one. This came out of an 84. They also have an S shape cross member. I don't know what years those were in, but this cross member is the one I had to use for this application here. I didn't space the cross member. You see these little spacers up here? Neither side is spaced. Those spacers, people usually shove in here and space it to the frame, which I read a lot about is not a good idea. They do that so that way they can get a better angle on their drive shaft or drop the transfer case down a little bit. From what I read, those spacers are there basically to take the rigidity out of the cross member and like it flexing with the whole drivetrain, because once you have stuff literally bolted together and there's no flex or no give, that's when you start breaking things. So they're basically there to take the rigidity out of the drivetrain components. They're not there to space anything or to drop anything, which is what a lot of people do. The computer I went with to control this transmission I got from Compushift. It was the Sport, the Compushift Sport one. It's very easy. It came with the harness, comes with everything, very clear and concise instructions. And because I have a carburetor, I had to run a TPS, a throttle position sensor. So we'll get up top there and I'll show you a little bit about that. That was actually the hardest part of the whole install of that computer, was that TPS up there, and even then it was basically simple. I had 5/16, I believe, or 7/16 cooler lines with the old transmission. The 4L80s, they want to go to a 3/8 cooler line. So I bought 2 straight lines and bent them up. They were already flared, and then once I got up there to the transmission cooler, then the hose clamped it off. I had extra like heater hose, so I decided to kind of insulate them a little bit. It ain't pretty, but I really don't care. But at least it kind of keeps them from rubbing on the frame. I have just a stock dipstick. It fit fine. You got to give it a little massage in and add a little pressure here and there to get it to fit into the holes, but it'll fit. Also, I forgot to add, if you get a 4-wheel drive style 4L80 for this, you have to have them add a rear reluctor wheel so you can get your speed sensor set up for it to read. The 4-wheel drives don't have it, but you have to have your transmission shop get in there and add a reluctor wheel to the rear speed sensor. The hole is there, it's provisioned for it, but the reluctor wheel is not there. You have to have them add that to it. It's twin sticked, as you can see, so there was no stock anything there. I had to cut the hole out a little bit more, and there's another video on it, how it fits with the bench seat up there, so you can see how that's done. Again, those instructions are pretty easy. So when you go to do that, if you go that route, it was easy. Other than that, I think that was it for down here. Let's go up top so you can kind of get an idea of that speed sensor. Okay, this is the TPS right here that came with the kit that I bought from Compushift. It hooks up to the carburetor, so that way the transmission will shift. My throttle bracket was installed on this post right here, but I had to get an Edelbrock throttle bracket, the one that mounts to the intake, so I can move that, because the TPS sits right there and they both won't fit together. This right here and how it adjusts and everything, this is about the hardest part of installing the Compushift kit, the computer that shifts the transmission. Very basic, so it's all in the instructions, and I won't get too much into it, but like I said, this whole setup works just fine for the truck. And yeah, I'm not sorry I did it, and if I ever had to swap another vehicle, I would go to another electronic transmission with an overdrive, and I would probably buy this same kit, this Compushift kit. So I hope that helps anybody looking to do the same thing that I did or something similar. If you got any questions, just go ahead and post them up, and get back to you when I can.